Hey, everybody. Welcome to What Drives Us, episode 388 for October 28th, 2020. My name is Russell Frost. I have the good fortune and pleasure to be your host this week. And along with me, look at the spectacular panel of happy faces. Okay.
Oh, we're happy.
Look at the spectacular panel anyway. Whether or not they're happy, they'll be happy at the end of the show. Trust me. Mm-hmm. So let me introduce them again. I'll get this show on the road. My co-host, Mr. Tony Schaefer.
Hey, everybody. Good evening to those of you watching and listening. Thanks for being here. If you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe, whatever it is, just smash it. Smash the damn thing. And if you're listening on audio, you can't see us, but I promise if you just rub your eyes real hard, you see really beautiful colors. And that really does. It's like a laser light show.
That may be the best advice you've ever given on this show, Tony Schaefer. On that note, let me go to my other co-host, Georgia McKenzie.
Hey, good evening, beautiful people. Welcome to What Drives Us, and I'm going to reiterate, please like and subscribe, not just to us, but to our lovely Mark Coughlin's Tesla Life, so you can get all the news, and Casey's channel, because you need his tech report right there, because I am not going to do it. One, I don't have a Tesla, and two, I don't have that kind of mind. So go for it.
Listen to Georgia, okay? That's all I'm going to say. It's always good to listen to Georgia.
Tell my ex that.
Next up, our friend who is safely ensconced north of the border, Mr. Mark Coughlan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. And I love Tony's advice. Close your eyes and think hard about colors. That's fabulous. That's fabulous, Tony. That really works.
Yeah, if you rub your eyes real hard, you see colors. It's like if you can't afford fireworks. That was when I was growing up. It was the 4th of July. We couldn't afford fireworks.
That also explains the multiple trips to the autonomous.
I'm trying.
Now he wears glasses. Right now he's pretending to be blind, but that's why he wears glasses.
Right.
There's actually a word for that, and I can't think of it right now. It really bugs me.
Stupidity?
Yeah. Because at one point, Salvador Dali was interviewed, like, what would happen if you were totally isolated? You couldn't create anything. You're like in a solitary confinement. So he said, I would do this. And the name for the thing that when you press on your eyelids, you see little things. And he said, I would do that. I would create images by doing that. Okay, well, that's definitely.
Oh, I thought he said autoerotica.
No.
That was different.
That too. But not.
Okay.
What does that mean?
No, it's like 3 minutes.
Google
we're
it.
already off the rails.
Don't do that.
I used to host this show. Now I really just go up and
hang on.
Yeah, and just try to hang on and ride the tiger, as it were. And speaking of riding the tiger, I don't know how that segues into his introduction, but our friend in the Mid-Atlantic region, Mr. Casey Green.
My peppers are coming along nicely over here. And to tack on to what Tony said, yes, do smash the subscribe button, but if it's already gray, don't hit it again. If it's red, then go ahead and hit it.
Thank you for that sage advice. Yes, don't unsubscribe in an attempt to follow our advice.
Yeah.
We've got some fun stories this week. Let's start off with Georgia, who actually, the story's super, super important. So listen carefully.
Oh, well, here's some awesome news. If you were wondering whether or not it was worth it to invest in your solar panels and your battery storage and your new control switchers and whatnot, just so you could have solar power, hey, Popular Mechanics is here to tell you solar is the cheapest electricity in history. Well, the article's in Popular Mechanics, but it's actually the International Energy Agency saying that. So solar is now the cheapest form of electricity for utility companies to build. So you've got less financial risks around the world, and that applies also to locations with the best policies and easiest access to financing. This is a really, really important story because for a lot of people, they avoid solar, and a lot of, well, depending on your municipalities, also sometimes avoid solar because they say, well, it's going to cost us so much. There's this bridge to getting into solar and having even a public farm. But this is now quantifiable. This is the cheapest way to produce electricity. And for our long-term ongoing electrical needs, we're going to have to make that investment. So maybe the investment's a little steep, but you know, over time, it's going to go nice and low. And we have something that will help us survive as a species, honestly, because it's time we started thinking about this, not just as making America function. How about making humanity function a little bit longer on the planet, despite our incredible tendency to shoot ourselves in the foot and keep aiming upwards until we finally blow our head off. That's probably not the nicest way to say it.
I always look to you for your optimism, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm very optimistic. I think it'll take us at least 2 generations to really destroy ourselves.
Oh, great.
I can't argue with that. Or I choose not to. No, I mean, this has been coming for a long time. We've talked about the price of solar coming down, and that doesn't mean that you can get solar panels for a song. What that means is that when you install them, or when there's a large industrial solar factory, that it's producing electricity at a lower cost than using a natural gas steam plant, or oil, or coal, or whatever it is, or nuclear. And that's a really good thing. That's something we've been waiting for, is for the cost of these things to come down so that we can implement them more widely, right? Economies of scale. And I'm not quoting "He who shall not be named."
No.
Oh, he'll get named eventually.
Yeah.
You're right. At least by Mark's segment.
You will. You're right.
Yeah, but it is. But I mean, what you're saying, Russell, is true. And you know, the people have started catching on, and we've started seeing the cost of solar going down. We're seeing the efficiency of solar panels go up. And I mean, those two factors, you know, along with improved battery storage, you know, we're seeing the overall cost, like Georgia was just saying, the overall cost of going solar is dropping year over year over year. And it's not even linear. It's becoming, what is it, hyperbolic?
Exponential.
Exponential, yes. And I mean, and it feeds itself, which is great, because you know, we have been doing this show for 10 long years, I know, but I mean, back in 2010 we were just waiting for more people to have more hybrids, because we knew if more people have hybrids, then more people would be exposed to hybrids, which means more people would have hybrids, which means more people would be exposed to them. And you know, we fast forward 10 years to 2020, and now people are talking about hybrids and plug-ins and all, you know, and EVs. It's the same thing happening with solar. You know, as was mentioned in the article, which is a well-written article in Popular Mechanics, by the way. One of the things driving this is exposure and the success stories. So we had people who were holding off, and they're like, well, I don't know, you know, I'm going to wait. I'm going to see how other people, you know. Now we have the long-term studies, the return on investments, and people are seeing that this is a viable way to generate electricity, you know, passively and cost effectively, which means more people are buying in, which means there's more studies, which means production goes up, which means, you know, costs go down, and it feeds itself. And that's what's driving this exponential growth. And it is actually exciting to read these articles.
Yeah, my tenants had their first power bill since the plague started, and it was 7 cents. That includes gas. Yeah.
Yeah.
7 cents.
A whopping 7 cents.
Those poor people.
Yes. And they went 9 months with no power bill.
What I would suggest is, if you're considering purchasing a new home, if you're getting it built, if you're buying a new home from a new subdivision, look into getting solar on the roof with your mortgage. Roll it into it. You're going to be into your mortgage for typically, you know, 20, 25 years. Put the cost of solar into that. That's how long the panels will last, typically.
That's how long they're warranted, yeah.
And you will, if you do it correctly, you will get to a point where you're not paying for electricity at all for the life of your home. And over that 25 years, you are going to be paid back in spades when it comes to the cost of initially putting in that particular solar array on your house. That's the time to research it and actually move forward on something like that. It's the easiest way to do it, because you can roll it into a bigger expense that's an asset that you're going to be paying for anyways. So just a word of interest if you are moving into a new home.
Yeah, and if your builder won't do it, then find somebody that they can partner with that will do it. A lot of them do have somebody in mind if they are any sort of aware. And you can still do this on existing homes as well, but it's still harder to do because then you got to get more people.
Got to do a retrofit. Yeah.
But it's not
Oh.
it's not that hard.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, usually you can.
I would also
I'm sorry, Georgia.
go for it. Say what you're going to say. I'll finish.
No,
Go
please.
for it. Oh, I was going to say that actually, if this interests you, I'd say go a little bit of a step further. Find out where the Planning Commission is and show up and advocate for making sure that any new developments have to have solar. It's possible. You don't have to wait for the builder to decide to do it. You can step forward and participate in the civic process and put in a public comment, either written or verbally, if you can show up to the meeting, and say new projects need to have a certain level of compliance with sustainability efforts. You don't have to be platinum LEET, which is LEET, certified, but having solar is a very basic thing that just about every developer can do.
And if you can't win on the solar argument, at least get them pre-wired for solar, because then they look better and they function better if the conduit's already run through the house correctly, and that gets rid of most of the complaints about the way solar looks, because now it's cohesive when the owner eventually goes to put it on there.
Yeah. And we're even talking residential, but
residential
another
commercial.
great thing about the solar, and it's not just residential. We're seeing municipal solar. And so utilities. Maybe they don't need to expand their coal-fired power plants, or they're looking at installing municipal solar. And in fact, in even my small town, Southern Indiana, I have friends on Facebook, and some people were like, hey, there's some stuff going on, on this highway. Does anyone know what this is? And it turns out that the county was installing municipal solar. And I'm like, damn, in my little community, they're putting in municipal solar. That's pretty kick-ass.
Yep.
And they're doing this, of course, because they've run the numbers, and they know that solar is less expensive than putting in polluting coal-fired power plants.
Yep. And as we discussed last week, if you have some empty highway stretches, either in the median or in the islands coming on the off-ramps, advocate to put them there, especially if there's any lines already running through, low voltage or high voltage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There you go. Well, let's move from power generation to power storage. Tony, what the hell is vanadium?
So if you have watched the movie The Black Panther,
No.
vanadium. Wait, no?
Vibranium.
Oh, right. Okay, that's different. Okay, so it turns out that vanadium is it's a chemical element, symbol V, atomic number 23, hard silvery gray, malleable transition metal. Rarely found in nature, but can be artificially isolated. That's what vanadium. Now, why this is important and what makes vanadium so special is that vanadium can actually exist with 1 to 5 ions. So what happens is we, the humans, not we like me, we have the ability to create these things called vanadium flow batteries. And so you have a membrane in the middle, and you have a vanadium with ions, 4 to 5 ions over here, 2 to 3 ions over here. And as the vanadium flows from the lower to the higher energy levels, and it goes through the membrane, it generates electricity. And this is a vanadium flow battery. Now, here's why I'm going to talk about that. Because even though vanadium flow batteries are less efficient than nickel metal hydride and lithium ion, they can charge and discharge multiple times each day for decades on end with absolutely, and I won't say absolutely zero, I was about to say absolutely no wear and tear, because that membrane will eventually need to be replaced. However, their ability to charge and discharge without disruption reliably for decades on end makes them perfect for municipal storage. And there's multi-generations, and they just get better and better, both in energy density and operating temperatures, that would make them better in, they can go down to 10 degrees centigrade now and up to 90 degrees centigrade, no, not 90 degrees centigrade, or maybe it was. It's pretty damn high. But they're coming up with better mixtures because the vanadium has to be in a fluid, and they're using actually sulfuric acid now. But they're looking at putting it in other fluids that'll bring the temperature down so we can operate in better, colder temperatures. But vanadium flow batteries are the newest. I don't want to say, I shouldn't say newest, but they're the hot topic right now. They've only come into their own and being proven reliable in the 1980s. And so they've gone through extensive testing, and we're starting to see installations of vanadium flow instead of batteries for storage and discharge of stored electricity. And it's pretty cool. I mean, if we're going to be capturing wind, if we're going to be capturing solar, if we're going to be capturing hydro, we know that the wind doesn't always blow, the sun doesn't always shine, and so we're gonna store that energy somewhere. And as you know, in some cases, lithium ion might be good. In other cases, it could be vanadium. And without getting into all of the chemistry and everything, this is just one more exciting way that we can get off of coal-fired power plants and store green energy and make it available whenever we need it.
So I was this whole time thinking that it was the nano flow cell batteries, but apparently they are competition for this.
Yes, yeah. And again, there's multiple tools in the toolbox, right? So
yeah.
It's, whichever tool is the best for, whatever situation.
Yeah, I think the main difference is going to be whatever that membrane is made of, and then their fluid is a different fluid. But they act the same way. They do the same job. Same way that the different varieties of lithium ion.
Yeah, and it is estimated that, every 10 to 20 years, a membrane might need to be replaced. But otherwise, because there's no anode to be affected, as there is with batteries, the degradation on vanadium flow batteries are very low. So they're reliable. So, pros and cons here, right? Like I said, they're not as energy dense as batteries, but they can run for decades and decades without detectable degradation.
They're easier to expand too, assuming that the amount of generation and use of that electricity in your instant is constant, or at least covered. You can just add bigger tanks, and
right?
you
Exactly.
have more storage.
Yeah, and that's another really cool thing is, you're exactly right. You add bigger tanks and you just increase your storage.
So yeah, you're not going to see vanadium flow batteries in a car.
Oh, no,
you're not going to see them in your lawnmower.
Heavy, liquid.
These are large things that are statically in. These are large tanks of dangerous oxides of vanadium and sulfuric acid. They're made for power plants, grid distribution, that kind of thing, for which they're very, very good. But there's certainly, you're not going to see vanadium flow in the next generation iPhone. Although it would be kind of interesting if they did. Like this attached to like a 10-gallon tank of sulfuric acid.
And then the big selling point for the nanoflow cells is that their fluid is non-toxic.
Right. Yeah.
But one of them may be more powerful than the other. There's probably a reason, or cheaper or something.
Yeah. Oh, and I should mention something that is called the levelized cost of energy, and so vanadium flow battery system typically to the order of a few tens of cents per kilowatt, which is ridiculously low.
Yeah, my introduction to it was this guy in Australia. They were interviewing him, and he's got like a corner of his garage just got the tanks and the pumps, and he was going through an upgrade cycle from the old stuff to the new stuff. Like as you said, they've gone through a couple generations already, and he doesn't have any lithium ion, he doesn't have any aircraft batteries, doesn't have any lead acid, but his solar system has been just running these pumps this whole time, and he didn't have to deal with the rise of the Australian energy market like so many other people had to deal with, and he just kept on trucking. It was just time for an upgrade, so he did.
There you go. Well, let's take a break from vanadium flow and sulfuric acid baths and go to Mark Coughlin for This Week in Tesla. Mark, I understand there might have been some Tesla news this week. I didn't really hear it. So.
Yeah, it was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
It was uncharacteristically quiet, but they released FSD beta, a huge difference in what has been available in full self-drive for Tesla. So this week, last week actually, they released it to a small audience of what Tesla calls safe drivers. I don't know what that is. I don't know how you characterize that. I got no idea. But they released full self-driving to mainly some residents in California, although there's been other states across that have received it. Casey, you knew the states. What were they? Outside of California?
Oregon, Florida, North Carolina, one in the Northeast, and that's it.
Okay. So a small amount of people have it. All these people are under an NDA not to share information about it. But yet, there's a ton of videos available right now that people can see. So it seems that Tesla is not really concerned about people talking about it if people are talking about it in a positive manner. No one has talked about it in a negative manner as far as I have seen to this point. There's been some talk about the videos showing people making left-hand turns, right-hand turns, easing into traffic, merging on the highway, residential streets, right down to people's neighborhoods, busy thoroughfares through cities, through rural areas. It's quite a gambit of different situations that people are using this FSD beta in. And from the hours of video that's available now on YouTube, just look up FSD beta, you'll come across it all. It seems that it's performing, someone described it as a 16-year-old with a driver's license. So it's cautious. It seems a little bit overcautious in certain instances. It's a little jittery every once in a while. There's been a documented video where they indicated that a left-hand turn was going to possibly turn into the wrong lane, so the person took control of the wheel. But it's still remarkable that they have taken this step with the public, with just this amount of safe drivers that they've identified. They're taking the data back. They're going to be examining it. People with the FSD beta have the ability to press a button on the screen to indicate that there was a problem, to report it to Tesla immediately. And they're examining those things and modifying it on the fly, it appears. So Elon had indicated that if the test goes according to their plan, that they will just continue to roll it out a little further and further, giving it more access to more people as time goes along. And hopefully they would like to have it in a wider release before it becomes the end of the year. So that's only 2 months away. I'm not sure if it'll go that quickly. There's a lot of edge cases that they're going to have to solve for. There's a lot of instances in different cities and different traffic patterns that I'm sure their simulations were not able to solve for initially. We'll have to see as this goes along as to whether or not this is going to roll out under plan, or if there's going to be some issues. I just think it's exciting that they've actually taken that first step. They've stepped across the threshold, and now they're having to deal with the issues and circumstances that are happening in real life. And we'll see if they'll be able to handle this. We really don't know. It's new territory, and it's interesting to watch to see this starting to unfold in front of us.
The one thing I would be curious of is how would the car react, and would it recognize if it's being pulled over by a police officer?
It looks like it goes around bicyclists and it avoids pedestrians. It would seem to me that they. Somebody else also caught it giving way to an emergency vehicle on the side of the road rather than running into it like the current version does. So I would imagine that, like the first Google car getting pulled over we saw, it might do the right thing.
I wonder, Tony, that's a great question. That's something they probably could have solved for initially, that knowing that emergency vehicles are on the roads all the time, whether it's a police car chasing you or whether it's an ambulance or fire truck trying to get around you. Those are certainly things that we as drivers run into all the time. So I would suspect that well, here's a question. Here in Canada, all emergency vehicles have a kind of strobe on the front to trigger traffic lights and things. I don't know if that happens in the US as a standard operation, but certainly that would be something that the cameras could look for and ascertain if that's an emergency vehicle or not.
Yeah. And I'm just curious. I'm not insinuating that.
Or just maybe somebody who's really into disco.
True. Yeah. So at certain points it'll pull over. Other times the large disco ball drops from the ceiling of the car and starts to spin.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't bite my upper lip. The white man dance.
So yeah, that is the huge news that's happened in this week in Tesla, and we are certainly watching with interest here on the outside, because of course the vast majority of people with Teslas are not getting their hands on this yet. It's something that is just regulated to the few at this point, and we'll have to see if it expands.
Did the price go up yet?
The price has not gone up yet. The price goes up tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay.
If you're in the US.
If you're in the US.
If you're in another country, the price remains the same.
For now.
Because what they're saying is that the price will go up once it's been cleared by the regulators of that country, and you've got then a week after that point. So Tesla will let you know that you have a week to decide whether or not you're going to jump on that train or not.
It's awfully nice of them.
Yeah, if you're in another country, watch all the videos and then start your FSD savings account so you can just drop it in cash when it comes.
Fair enough.
Let's see how that works.
And there we go. There's the week in Tesla.
There was a little more, but that's most of it.
Yeah. Next up, we have a story about buses that Tony's going to talk about. So let's go to Tony.
Yeah. So this is from the Connecticut Post, and
better than the North Korean Times.
Just a bit.
Yes. The Northern China Morning Star, I think,
right,
or something. Yeah. So here's something I did not know. I'm just going to ask you, and if you've read the article, then you already know. But if you had to guess, what city in the United States has the nearly double the national average asthma rate? What city do you think that would be?
Los
Atlanta,
Angeles.
Georgia.
Or Atlanta.
Coal-fired Pennsylvania.
West Virginia.
Right?
And these are all great answers, except the answer is New Haven, Connecticut.
Ah,
Wow.
I swear to you,
I believe you.
14.6% of school-aged children in New Haven, which is nearly double the average rate of 7.9% of asthma. So, as you can imagine, the state of Connecticut is huge behind the plan for a prospective future United States president and his female running mates, who I'm not going to name names so as not to appear biased. They are pledging to achieve 100% clean energy economy and reach net zero emissions no later than 2050. And one of the ways they're going to approach this, and remember, I said 14.6% of school-aged children in New Haven. The best way to help children breathe easier is to give them electric school buses. And so 500,000 school buses, American-made, zero-emission, all electric. And the great thing is, as we've always said, buses drive a very prescribed route. We know exactly how far they're going to drive every single day. You add a buffer for, driving around or, going to get washed or, or whatever. But every night we know that these buses can be parked at the school and they can be charged. I mean, think about it. We're talking New Haven, Connecticut. We know that it gets cold in Connecticut during the school year. So kids are right now riding in these diesel burners, and we know that buses are not clean diesel, as though there were such a thing. So the kids are in the buses with the windows up and the heat cranked and the diesel fumes just permeating the inside of the bus, and the kids are just sitting in a diesel, incubation tank, and that is horrible. These kids need to ride in an electric bus so they can breathe easier. And this is one of the plans of the Biden-Harris, hopefully the presidency, is to bring electric school buses to American schools. And this will do two things, of course. This will do two things, or three things, or four things, or, I mean, the number just keeps growing.
Yeah.
It'll help the kids breathe easier. It will bring the amount of pollution caused by diesel burning school buses down. It will build American jobs because they're pledging these will be American-made buses. It'll bring us towards a greener, greener transportation, net zero. I mean, the hits just keep on coming. So I honestly hope that this plan can be established, and by which I mean in 7 days. I hope that the people who are planning this can be put in such a position that they can make this happen, because this would be an amazing thing for the kids, for the economy, for the environment, for everyone.
I was reading an article this morning from the local power utility that was bragging about how Virginia is about to go EV for their school buses, and it had a couple of photos. And I didn't read it too deeply, but it seemed cool.
Yeah. It's a no-brainer. They're on a very closed loop. They don't go very far every day. Stop burning diesel around kids, and they sit in front of the schools and idle. For the love of God.
That's to keep those heaters going.
I used to, the last school bus I took when I first moved to California in the late 70s had an exhaust leak.
Ooh.
So the exhaust would go into the cabin of the bus, and every day I arrived at school with like this piercing migraine, which was a little extra incentive for me to get my own transportation and get out of the school bus, because that was very unpleasant.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and like I said, in warmer climates, you can, you crack the windows. I mean, the windows are put down about halfway or something, and you got, the air circulating, because a lot of these schools, a lot of these buses just don't have air conditioning, because it would be incredibly difficult to, air condition an entire bus. So you put the windows up, and you have, the kids are generating their own heat, and yeah, like I said, it just becomes a bubble of diesel fumes, and it's atrocious.
Yay!
Yes. So hopefully a bit of good news on the horizon.
So in the Virginia article, they talked about the ability to use them as grid storage. So when they're not running routes, like during the summertime, or yeah.
Yeah.
So while they're sitting there at the school or at the depot, they could make their money back and pay for themselves.
Right. And then you could install vanadium flow battery, energy storage.
Oh, if they crashed, you don't want the toxic fluid on the children. But they could use some of that cash back to buy the optional air conditioner.
What drives us is not responsible for listening to any of these guys' suggestions about putting vanadium batteries into school buses.
Do not power your school buses with sulfuric acid.
Listen to her.
Oh.
There you go. Show title: sulfuric acid school buses.
No, the show title is "Listen to Her."
Listen to her.
I'm writing them all down, kids. I'm writing them all down.
Yeah.
It's a good plan, and I'm looking forward to it, because especially when you consider, for most of the kids who actually have to take school buses, they're usually dealing with a whole lot of other societal impacts on their education. They don't, obviously, their parent can't drop them off, so they're probably doesn't have a parent that has the free time to take them in. A lot of times they're coming in from outlying areas, which means access to things like internet, and they might be having the impact of environmental racism in their neighborhoods. This is one less thing that's going to create a physical damage to their bodies and could impact them as they grow up into adults. And I think it's a brilliant idea. It's a wonderful thing. And it's taking far too long for us to pull a correction on how much we're polluting around our children. Then again, we have people taking kids around to, massive events with no masks. So I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if we think we can just make another one.
Yeah.
And even if you're very selfish and you don't give a shit about children, these things are running through your neighborhood, so they're affecting your air. So if you want to just 100% me, this is good for you too.
Pet.
Yes, exactly.
Your beloved pet. Yes.
Yes. And like I said, there's 500,000 school buses in the United States. And I mean, that's huge.
Big, stinky, diesel-powered school buses.
Yeah.
I really can't imagine there's so many, but yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. In the article in the Connecticut Post, it said 500,000. And so I ended up at newgeography.com and looking at statistics of buses, and they said 480,000 in 2014. So yeah, 500,000 in the United States.
Yeah, because they have substitute and spares.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
But when you consider how many municipalities, especially large ones like San Francisco, have electrical municipal transit buses, I was very surprised those old diesel buses were still around. But
well, in Gainesville, Florida, whenever I'd miss the school bus or it was too cold to ride my bike to school, I could ride the city bus, which was, a lot of them were built in 1950.
Yeah.
So,
And the design hasn't changed a bit.
right.
That's the horrifying thing about that.
Yeah, some of the new ones are running old engines, just like the trucks we talked about quite a few episodes ago.
what they do, just pick up put a shell out there and just dump the old engine right into it.
Yeah, it was like you could get the glider and you could put the old remand engine into it, and it didn't have to meet the new emissions regs because it's an old engine.
Wow.
Once again,
Yeah.
I'd like to thank humans for probably doing their best to kill themselves better than any other creature on the planet.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is.
Now, I have to say, one of the, thinking of on what Georgia said about, with electric and green public transportation, why there are, diesel school buses, which is a great point. But the question comes down to who owns the school buses. I believe there are some drivers that own their own bus and they contract with the school to drive.
I've heard of
And
such a
some
thing,
of
yeah.
the
Yeah.
some of the buses are actually owned by the school corporation. And as we
Yeah.
know, that many efforts have been done in the United States to defund school corporations as much as possible.
Oh, I was
So
riding through Jersey
definitely,
and I saw a lot of the school buses were actually vans, and they were, like you said, private
yeah,
corporations. And they were different ones too, like taxis, but school buses.
yeah.
Well, you
So,
know,
I mean,
one
there
of
will
the,
be some heavy subsidization done to do this transition.
well, one of the issues is that for many municipalities, back when I worked for our local government, public-private partnership was just, it was just a buzzword, and they just, everything was, no, we're gonna contract out, and we're gonna let the private sector handle that, and we're gonna work in a public-private partnership. So we're gonna cut these positions, we're gonna cut that service, we're gonna go outside to the experts. And I was always sitting there going, when you cut that out internally, that means you lose a lot of the oversight. And you lose a lot of the special skills that come from having somebody who at least intimately knows that. It's one thing to say you're going to reduce maybe providing that and contract out, but when you have someone with absolutely none of the required skills to even guide you on your choices when you're dealing with the private sector, the one thing you're going to wind up with is screwed, because you have money and you have no expertise, and you're out there looking like a freaking mark on the market. That's all you look like. And I don't know what it is with why so many people have this strong belief that, well, if we got rid of the government person doing this and put it out in the private sector, suddenly there'd be no problems at all, and we'd all save money and taxes would drop down to zero. Because the last time I checked, y'all are as equally pissed with AT&T and Comcast and Amazon as you were with the road
My
crew.
bad.
So maybe public-private is not the best way to go, because the loss of expertise and the loss of control, and as Casey is pointing out, and as Tony has pointed out, that means that when there is a change that needs to happen, how do you get that change happening? Well, if you've got a ton load of subcontractors and you're completely dependent on them for the service, you're waiting for them to decide to make a change. How
And
does
if
that
they
work?
don't want to change because they don't want to, yeah, they don't want to invest that money, they'd rather keep making money on the old equipment, then your kids enjoy diesel.
Right.
Good for you. I mean, maybe it's okay because it's not your kids in particular that are going to get hurt, which is the flip side for a lot of the people who are actually in government. One of the things we struggle with here is that the people who get to be running the city sometimes either can't afford to live in the city or don't want to live in the city. They want to be able to commute in, but then they're not directly affected by what's happening in these areas. And it's a catch-22. I'm not saying they shouldn't be hired. I'm saying that you need to have a balance of people for whom the choices they make with regard to the municipality they work for, it's going to directly impact their life. So they have a bit of a stake in it. But, mileage may vary.
No, yeah, it's excellent point.
Well,
Yeah,
speaking of
and
excellent, go ahead, Tony.
oh no, I was just going to make one last clip. And I was going to say it's an excellent point. And while we're on it, Georgia, let me tell you the best way to live your life. The best way to live your life, because I'm not there. We're literally like half a continent away.
Oh, I've been femme on the internet for at least a couple of years. I am very used to men popping in to tell me how to live my particular life.
Wow.
A lot, in fact. It is amazing to me the levels of expertise that that manhood and the divine rod of guidance has given to gentlemen on the internet, especially the alabaster rod of enlightenment that where sometimes they parachute in, and I just think, My brother, my lovely human brother there. Thank you for your input
Mhm.
at this time. I am sure someone somewhere values it.
Nice.
Well, as it turns out, there's something of some minor importance occurring next week in the United States. Now, luckily, Mark Coughlin dodges this bullet. Although, as we pointed out,
kind of.
yeah, kind of. As we pointed out, his country and our country are kind of tied together. Yeah. We're landlocked, I guess. Is that's not really the exact word, but we're
Like
contiguous.
this.
Yeah. So while he can look from afar and laugh, if things do catch fire here, he's going to be choking on the smoke. So let's.
Actually, before you do that, Russell, I believe Tony has an image that I see from my house.
There we go. Your kids
Pretty
are just
much.
cute as buttons. Okay, Mark?
Yes, I must say. Yeah.
They are adorable.
Yeah, the two girls enjoyed that pool, let me tell you.
It is over 10 years old and it's still true, which we should be ashamed of in America.
We should be, yes.
But do I need to say it?
Go for it.
Okay, get your ass out next Tuesday and vote in person. If you haven't already, if you've already done your vote by mail thing, don't mail it. Take it somewhere to the local drop-off. Drop it off in a ballot box. Make sure you double-check that everything's been done correctly. Make sure that you take it to a real drop-off spot, not some weird Republican fake-ass ballot box thing. I'm going to vote in person because I'm a masochist and I like that whole election day thing. So, that's
how long do you plan on standing in line? Like
I took the day off. I'm going to be there first thing in the morning, and I want to see what's going on.
Okay,
Wow.
look, almost every place in the United States has early voting.
I was going to say early voting, yeah.
Oh my God, I don't understand.
Early voting, there's one location. It's in San Diego.
I voted last week. Okay. Are you serious? One location?
One.
They don't want us to vote.
I'm in Lake County, Illinois. There's like 5 locations within the county. Wow.
There's a phrase that explains that.
Yes.
Thank you.
So there was a kid I saw interviewed on the news. I say kid just because he's a younger adult than me. He went in and he was able to listen to the entire discography of an artist. He went in just to listen to one song. And then by the time he was able to vote, it was the next day. It was 1 a.m. before he could get in there and cast his ballot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Black area?
He was a black kid.
Yeah.
That's right. Woohoo! Yes, the race winner. Woohoo!
God.
Yeah.
But even to that point, yes. I mean, as many efforts have been taken to disenfranchise voters, to completely disillusion voters, to discourage voters, to make it hard, if not impossible, to vote, to, like Russell said, a political party that's so evil it shall not be mentioned, putting up fake ballot boxes, being told by the courts they have to take them down and saying, no, we're not going to. I don't understand how they have not been forcibly removed by other entities by now. Do your civil duty, do it in person. I am at a point where I simply don't trust mail-in voting. I have to go fill out the ballot and put it in the slot myself. And even then, I question whether or not the ballot box counting system has been hacked. It's a shame that we live in this environment, but you have to go do your civic duty.
And don't fall for that bullshit platitude that, my vote doesn't count because I'm in an XYZ area or whatever. If your vote didn't count, they wouldn't be fighting so hard to steal it from you.
Exactly. And as Georgia, I'm going to steal your thunder, but I'm giving you tons of props and credit on this. Vote down the ballot. And
yes.
The thing is, what's really interesting is I did go to Ballotpedia and I looked up my ballot and I found the people and I thought, okay, well, there's nothing new, really, nothing I didn't already know. Then I went to my county website and found that there were judges, assessors, comptrollers, and other things that were not listed on Ballotpedia. And I'm not dissing on Ballotpedia. What I am doing is saying you have to do your due diligence and don't just look to one resource, go to multiple resources and see what's actually on your ballot and do your research.
Yeah,
Well,
your
I'm
local
going to try to
election.
wrap up everything I've got voting wise for
Go ahead.
you so that Russell doesn't go. But oh yeah, super
You
cute.
guys don't see the chat. He is like, he's making the trains run.
Shut up, everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Super fast. Thank you, Tony. I'm gonna get into this really quickly. One vote. To anybody who tells you that your vote doesn't count is bullshit. Anybody who says lesser of two evils does not seem to understand, hey, there's a lot of evil and then there's a little bit of evil. And you know what you all are? If you're an average human being, you got a little bit of evil and you say, shut the fuck up and just go pick somebody, damn it. The other side of it is absolutely research your choices. Critical choices that are on the ballot are your judgeships. I don't necessarily approve of electing judges, but by letting somebody else pick who's going to decide your cases, that means you are putting choices that could affect you at your most vulnerable time up to the people who are willing to show up. And you know what I've noticed with Republicans? They will crawl over broken glass to pick somebody that will screw Democrats. You got to
Or
admire
anybody.
that quality.
Screw people.
They're consistent.
Yeah.
On top of that, yes, go to Ballotopedia, check that out. To find out where your voting places are, you can find your local county clerks. You can do that online, you can call them, and you can ask, you can find where to drop those off. Do not be fooled, do not just drop it anywhere. Go for an official ballot location. Do it now. If you have the ability to take the day off like Russell does, God bless you, take a snack, and go out there and do it in person. I got my confirmation that my ballot has been counted and accepted by the county clerk. I followed, that was my birthday present. So, knowing that was done. And the ability to check that, I believe you can find out from iwillvote.org or vote.org, or your county clerk can tell you if there is a tracking system in place. California is really lucky. We got a completely prepaid envelope. We don't have to put postage on it. We just have to follow instructions. Cannot repeat that enough. Follow the damn instructions. You don't want your vote to be completely discounted for something stupid like a signature. This is not new. My ex actually used to work for political campaigns in New York City, and one of the things they did with petitions was do signature challenges, which is they would cross-check your signature on a ballot versus your signature on the record to make sure that they matched. So that's quick and dirty. Voting is critical. Voting is important. I know it's not as sexy or as fun or give you that sense of community that going to a protest does, because that's what that's all about. Protests are very visible statements of dissatisfaction with a society. But if you want to change society, the hard work starts with the vote. And I do mean starts. That is the simplest, easiest way of changing society. That is your vote. And if you have not been paying in the past 4 years, it is amazing how fast you can undo 20 years worth of work. Or I don't know, let's look at our international postal treaty that Donald Trump tried to pull us out of, which would have been like, how do we even send mail to somebody overseas? You can do that in 4 years as long as you have the right party behind you and you have control over nearly everything. So you can protest all you want, you can sign all the petitions you want, you can donate to ACLU or Planned Parenthood as much as you want. But if they control the judgeships and just make it plain old illegal, so what if you're going to donate? It's no longer even an issue. The courts are in their favor. That's why voting is critical. There is not a single seat of power that should ever be left up to chance if you have the opportunity to have a say in it. So I've used this analogy before, but I think video games and fairy stories have left us with the idea that power just sits hiding somewhere in a vault. Well, it actually doesn't. Power sits right out there in the open, and it's for anybody who wants to go for it. And a lot of people on the left and a lot of people in the center are finding out that when you sit things out and just say, I don't care who has the power, there's somebody else behind you going, you know what? I want that power.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the gains of civil rights and environmental law were made in the 50s through the 60s and the early 70s. And what they noticed was free or very cheap college and courts that were more devoted to interpreting the law and the real esoteric questions of law interpretation were siding with people that they didn't like. And they stuck with their plan through thick and through thin, and they never stopped. And voila.
Yeah.
So if you don't like it, you know what? You better have that stick-to-itiveness, because they instilled it in themselves and their kids, and they're still going, and they're never going to go away. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to turn that back to Russell.
I just want to interject. There's no such thing as settled law. All it takes is somebody all the way through willing to go through the challenges, and then they will revisit shit. So don't sit it out. Participate.
I think you see me say that on the Twitters. There's no such thing as settled law, because all you need is a plaintiff withstanding, a lawyer willing to take the case, and a friendly judge. And there goes your standing and the case. That's it.
And there's a whole bunch of those right now, all teed up, queued up for the brand new Supreme Court. Watch in the next 3 months what happens.
Old chain.
And get your ass to the polls next Tuesday.
And vote no on 22 if you're in California, because always read the fine print. And one of the fine prints in Prop 22 in California actually have substantial undermining of labor laws. So that's why no on 22. It's not just about Uber and Lyft and everybody, all the gig economy people who are throwing millions, literal, more than they would have actually had to pay if they actually offered the proper benefits to their workers. They are actually undermining labor law with that one. So we really want to defeat that.
No on Prop 22 if you're in California. And if you don't do that, I will hunt you down and kill you slowly in front of your children. Yeah. Oh,
on camera.
Is that too much? Is that over the top?
Yeah, don't make the children watch. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
Okay, I'll do it quietly in the garage when the kids are in.
See, that's perfect. Yeah.
Okay, Georgia McKenzie has nothing to do with these people. I and Mark are out of this. Mark, and Casey.
I present you our article, evidence number 77, this recorded interview.
Excellent.
I didn't.
The attorney, the What Drives Us attorney just said that I need to shut up and do the shout-outs. So let's start with Casey Green.
So I've got a couple videos for you at youtube.com/Casey Green. That's KACEYGREEN. Had a drive through the Shenandoah Mountains to see the leaves change. It wasn't just see the leaves change, it was fall, and we were going to have a physically distanced picnic, and well, nothing went according to plan, so I salvaged as much footage as I could from the car's cameras, because my cameras were in the trunk. And a couple other videos were also made, like a nice review of the most beautiful supercharger I've seen on the East Coast at Strasburg, Virginia. Take a look.
There you go, Casey Green. What's the address, Casey?
youtube.com/Casey Green. That's KACEYGREEN. Thank you.
Excellent. I hear Mark Coughlin has things to plug.
Well, I would like you out there, if you haven't done this already, please give us a thumbs up right at this point. Drop everything, give us that thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to the What Drives Us YouTube page, what are you waiting for? Like, it's free, it's fun. I don't know what you're waiting for. Please give us a subscription. Those numbers help us out in the YouTube algorithm, gets us more eyes, gets us more exposure. Please do so. We would be greatly appreciative if you were to do so right now. There, Russell's done it. His now.
I'm doing it right now. I'm for the first time subscribing to my own channel.
I am shocked that the host of the show has not subscribed until today.
I don't have a personal account, so I can only subscribe as What Drives Us, which means What Drives Us is subscribing to What Drives Us, and at that point we go into a time loop, and
that's a problem.
Yeah, it gets ugly.
Okay.
It's really weird. All of a sudden I'm killing my grandchildren. Yeah. Or vice versa. They're killing me. Let's get off the killing topic and go to someone who's not usually a deadly threat, Georgia McKenzie.
Oh, I don't think that's right at all.
Oh.
Sorry.
Don't cross her.
Well, I've said that a number of times. Thank you.
But thank you for watching. And again, going to push that like and subscribe button for all 3 of our programs on this network. And also, thank you to everybody who's already voted and banked their vote. Thank you to everybody who actually is out there getting out the vote. Join me on mobilize.us. We're going to text bank and make some phone calls. But hang in there, everybody. We're almost done.
Yeah.
Over to Tony.
And you know
Or
what?
Casey.
I took a call like right before the show. Be nice to the people that are calling you. I'm getting like 6 texts a day and I'm getting some calls and I get it. But you know what? All these people are volunteering their time and they're doing it from the best possible place they can. They're trying to make positive changes. So I know you don't want to hear their message maybe, or you're already on board and yay, that's excellent. But be nice to the volunteers. They're just doing God's work. And I don't use that phrase.
It's just
very often.
regular folks.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of regular folks who care.
And if you're really lucky, Georgia McKenzie will call you.
Oh, that would be awesome.
She doesn't call me. Oh, did I go? I went there in the show. What a jerk. Speaking of not a jerk, Tony Schaefer, take us home.
Oh, let's see what I can do. Who can I mention about killing in order to become a jerk?
Killing someone's children in front of them. Yeah.
So if I had to choose who to kill,
Oh,
it would be, no, I certainly would not kill Sky 1187 or Ryan or Canthal, Christian or Harshal, Ricardo. Thank you very much for recently subscribing to our channel. We really do appreciate it. We love seeing new subscribers. Also, I'm going to give some shout outs to iRod312 and Eric Stevens, longtime fan.
Eric.
Friend of the, I shouldn't say fan, longtime friend of the show.
Absolutely.
He's transcended. David Watts, Alec Bailey, David G. You guys are posting comments, and we love that. We read the comments, we respond to comments, and I love it. Eric has gone through and he like puts in the time intervals. And he's like, at this time, you know, Russell, you're full of crap. It's this and this and this, and you know, and at this, and he's coming, and it's great, and I love that because it really means that, you know, it means that people are watching and really paying attention and engaging, and that's just fantastic. So thank you so much for doing that. So with that, I'm going to say, I don't know where you got this episode. If you're watching it on YouTube and you haven't yet subscribed, please do. And if you're listening to it, if you just stumbled upon it, subscribe. You can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, TuneIn, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and you'll never miss a new show.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Tony Schaefer. As always, I want to thank Michael Manring for our amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Do support him if you can. Buy a song. Just don't buy anything on CD Baby, because CD Baby. I want to thank the amazing panel, Georgia McKenzie, Casey Green, Mark Coughlin, and of course, Tony Schaefer. Very nice show. We didn't cover a million topics, but, you know, we had a nice time chatting about that. I kind of like that. I like covering a million topics too. I'm enjoying the difference. Once again, it can't be said enough. Get your ass out and vote on Tuesday. If you haven't, or if already done it, if you have, thank you. And thanks, as always, to all of you for watching. You are the reason we do the show. Well, we might do it if you guys weren't watching, but, you know, it's better. We're exhibitionists. We like performing for a crowd. So thank you so much. Tune in next week and find out what drives us.
Yeah.
Next week with a new government in the United States. Thank you.
Yikes.
if only.
Government elect.